Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our Q2 Boulder HubSpot user group. We're so excited to have Jack Coopersmith with us today. He's going to be kind of diving into Operations Hub and hopefully demystifying some of the power behind it and some of the use cases that you can start to implement really today. I'm Dustin Brackett. I'm the founder and CEO of HIVE Strategy. We're a Diamond HubSpot solutions partner. We've been in the HubSpot ecosystem for coming up on 10 years, which is crazy. And also HIVE Hub, which is a fractional HubSpot admin. And so, yeah, we're going to turn it over to Jack. If you do have questions, on the right side of your screen is the Q&A. Feel free to put any questions in there. We'll be answering them kind of throughout. If there's something that comes up and we need to bring Jack in on, we'll do that towards the end. And also feel free to engage with everyone in the general chat, but looking forward to a great presentation here, Jack.
Thanks for having me today, Dustin. Really do appreciate you giving me the mic here. And folks, great to see everyone. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining as well. I'll also just drop my email. I'd love to get through questions throughout this conversation for sure. But folks, if you do have any questions, feel free to just reach out to me at jcoopersmith@hubspot.com. I'd love to keep this conversation going. And again, Dustin, thanks for not only inviting me here today, but also for just being a great ally of ours. You've been super helpful. Also, just shout out to Dustin's book, Market Like a Human. Dustin, you sent that my way. I've actually started reading that already. So if you all haven't checked that out, give it a quick search and give it a read as well, because you've definitely gotten some ideas cooking in my head. So folks, I know that I dropped this icebreaker here, had some good laughs, chatted about air fryers a little bit. If you all don't mind, I also like to just lead off these events with a little bit of a temperature check as to our level of comfortability around Operations Hub in general. So folks, if you don't mind, I'd love it if you could give like a 1 to 5 level of comfortability, 1 being I've never heard of it, 5 being I use it all the time. I always love to just get a census of where people are on this. So if you don't mind, looks like we have some 2s and 3s. Cool. That's awesome. Helpful to know. My hope is that I can take some of these 2s and 3s to like the high 2s, 3s, maybe 4s as well. And again, if you all do have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also, a lot of other folks at HubSpot, of course, will be here and ready and willing to support. So folks, regarding today, where I'm planning on taking us, this is going to be a little bit more of a deck heavy presentation than I generally do, but I want to show you all like some specifics and chat with you about how some other folks who use Operations Hub are indeed leveraging these tools. So I've branded this the top 5 use case. I'll be completely honest though, there's a good bit more than 5 here. So you all are going to have, I don't know, maybe 15. I guess I really did undercount on this one here. And I also wanted to just share this graphic to kick things off because a lot of the questions that we get are just generally like, wait, what is Ops Hub? Can you like level set as to exactly what this is? Because Ops Hub is a big, powerful tool that can cover a lot of surface area and can cover a lot of very specific use cases as well. If we're going to boil it down, though, into a graphic like this, it really is that intersection of integrations, automation and data quality, as well as business intelligence and reporting to really drive your business forward. That's, of course, an oversimplification, and we'll get into it a little bit more. So where I'm planning on taking this conversation here today, folks, starting off just what is Operations Hub and level setting on that more than just that graphic that I put up there. We're going to get into how Operations Hub is used today. So the vast majority of our time will indeed be getting into these use cases. And then as Dustin did mention, feel free to drop anything and everything into the Q&A throughout this session. We'll have some time towards the end of this session as well for questions or just broader discussion. So folks, I'm keeping my eye on this right now. Feel free to drop questions throughout. I'm frankly not positive with Bevy if we're all able to like go off camera and off mic, but feel free to chat as well if you actually like want to speak with us as opposed to, I guess, typing chat. So that's where I'm going to take us today here, folks. And I'll kick things off with what is Operations Hub? A question that I definitely get a decent amount. Before even jumping into this, though, I realized that I haven't introduced myself. I do recognize a handful of names in here. So for those who I have already chatted with, great to see you all. I'm, of course, Jack Coopersmith. I'm a senior product marketing manager responsible for Operations Hub and commerce as well at HubSpot. I've been here for about 6.5 years. So, Dustin, you have me beat regarding the amount of time within the HubSpot ecosystem. I've spent most of my time in the customer success organization. Onboarding, I started in customer support. I've also done some sales work. I've worked on our product team for about 1.5 years, and now I am sitting in our marketing team. I think I'm the only HubSpotter that's done marketing, sales, customer success, and product. So I've definitely done a lot of different roles here. And I've used these tools in a lot of different ways, and I've chatted with them in a lot of different capacities as well. So I realized I didn't put a slide up to introduce myself, so just wanted to voice over that really quickly here. And again, I'd love to, build further relationships with all of you folks moving forward. And Yvonne, yep, it's been a really fun ride. I love all the relationships that I've built more than anything, to be completely honest. So that's enough about me. Let's chat a little bit more about Operations Hub, where I imagine most of you all would want to focus, as opposed to just my experience here at HubSpot. So this is a specific quote from Yamini, our CEO, that Operations Hub really is the special sauce of HubSpot. And it's really here to boost and supercharge the other hubs as well. And so that's by using things like automation, connecting all of your systems together, really leaning into reporting and business insights with our customer report builder and things like data sets as well. And so it really is that amplification engine to take your HubSpot usage to another level. I'll also just tie back to like a personal anecdote that I had that really has turned out to be true as I've gotten into the weeds of Operations Hub recently. When we first launched Operations Hub, I was sitting on our onboarding team at the time. And the way that the company enabled us was like, you can assume that Operations Hub can solve just about anything that a given customer runs into that they can't just do within the UI. I'll be completely honest, folks. When I first heard that, I was like, that sounds pretty lofty. Like, really, anything? As I've really started to peel back the layers of Operations Hub, though, that's ended up being pretty darn true. So for your own business or for any partners who are indeed working with other customers, if you all are ever hitting a wall that you just can't get over within the UI of HubSpot, think about Operations Hub and what we can do, because there's a pretty darn good chance that Operations Hub can be that ladder that can get you over that wall. So just wanted to tie back to that like personal anecdote that I have. It really has ended up being true despite my initial skepticism around the positioning of it. So how are we building these tools? How are we thinking about the problems that we're solving and spaces that we're really playing in? We've really broken things down by using the 3 Ps. We do love a good acronym here at HubSpot, as I'm sure some of you all know. The first one is platform. So how can we get your teams the information they need in order to do their jobs within HubSpot? So that's both data generated within HubSpot. It's also data generated in your other tools as well. We indeed want to be the center of gravity for every business, in full recognition, though, of the fact that we are not the only tool in your tech stack by any means. So we do want to continue to lean into that direction of platform to really centralize all of those efforts underneath HubSpot's roof. Now, once those efforts and that information is centralized, then it's really about process. How can we enable your teams to be as efficient as possible, and then be able to not only lean into that level of efficiency, but then take a step back and say, okay, we have all this information in this platform. We have our teams working in this platform as efficiently as we possibly can. What are some data points? What are some insights that we can get from all of this work so that we can remove the things that aren't working as well and double down on the things that are working? And of course, lean into things like experimentation too, and then get some insight into that. And so that's how we really think about building Operations Hub through the lens of these 3 Ps here. Now, I'm sure you all hear this and you're like, yep, makes a lot of sense. I'm sure you all also know that this is a lot harder than it sounds, just as I positioned it right there. Folks, I've seen this GIF 100 times and I laugh pretty much every single time. And I think a lot of folks who are really in the world of systems and tech stacks can indeed empathize with this. Also curious if anyone has any opinions as to how I just said GIF there. If it's GIF or GIF, I've always landed on GIF. I guess, I don't know where you all stand there, but I think a lot of folks will indeed empathize with this. It can be easier said than done in a big, big way. And the data also, exactly, Dustin, I feel like GIF goes with cottage cheese as an example. And GIF is more what I just showed right there. So yes, I completely agree. Uh, yes, exactly, Rhonda. I couldn't agree more. So don't just take my word for it here, folks. I imagine we do have marketers in the room. I imagine you all are also using more than just a given tool every day. In fact, probably a handful of more than just one tool. When it comes to this stat right here, folks, my mind is continuously blown by this. This is something that Yamini shared on the inbound stage last year. Harvard Business Review estimates that only about 3% of companies' data meet basic quality standards. That is not a typo. It is 3%. And so data as a whole, there's a lot more that we can do in order to instill more trust in data. And then finally, 75% of companies admit that employees fabricate data to tell the right story. There are indeed guardrails that you can put in to prevent that. And so these are just some stats that show that a lot of folks are indeed empathizing with this GIF right here. So that's how we think about the product philosophy around this, some of the problems that we're trying to solve. Taking our 3 Ps, though, and putting them into specific tools that can help solve them. And we'll get into the specifics a lot more in the next couple of minutes here. Platform is really about integrations and consolidating everything underneath that one roof of HubSpot. Data sync is a big part of HubSpot as a whole, real-time, two-way data sync, historical sync as well. We are continuously adding more and more platforms into our data sync engine. We're also adding more and more data into the data sync engine as well. Specifically commerce data, that's where we've been focusing in 2023. I'm not just saying that because commerce is also under my umbrella, but that is a direction that HubSpot as a whole is pushing forward in a big, big way. So platform is really about that centralization of data and efforts within HubSpot. Process is really around that automation piece. We'll get into some specifics as to how people are using this, but this is everything from data quality automation to webhooks to custom coded actions within workflows. And then finally, perspective is really more oriented around, of course, reporting. So things like data sets, formulas within those data sets. We have our Snowflake integration as well. If that is a data warehouse that you're leveraging and want to continue doing your reporting within, you can certainly do that too. Folks, there are more bullet points I could have added underneath each of these. However, I've opted instead of just going through individual bullet points to dive into some specific use cases for you folks. Now, I broke this down into 5 different buckets. We'll go through each of these buckets. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, there's more than just 5 things I'm going to walk through with you all. But I did want to just break it down in these 5 different buckets. I'll be completely honest with you folks too. As this content was coming together, I of course collaborated with a lot of different folks on my team as to what are the things that we do want to spotlight. This was kind of tricky to pull together like these concrete use cases, and I'm being a little vulnerable here, but the reason why I think it was a little tricky is because OpsHub is really designed to allow for each of you all to really have your custom use cases met. And so while I am going to run through specific things to get some creative juices ideally flowing with you folks, OpsHub is indeed something that each individual company uses in a bit of a different way. So while we can talk about inbound marketing best practices very, very easily, when it comes to Operations Hub, there's a lot more nuance within it. And so just wanted to call that out. If you all are like, how are other people using it? How are other people using it? It's definitely a question that I get a lot. We're definitely going to get into it, but I do just want to call out the fact that each individual business has quite a different use case for this. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear for you all and wanted to make sure that I connected those dots. Now the buckets we're going to be digging into here today. Data quality is that first one. Yeah, I'm sure you all have heard the term data is the new oil, is the new currency. I think that will continue to be the case as we move into the future, and who doesn't want a high level of quality within their data. When it comes to automation, there's a lot that you can do within this. I wanted to break this down though through the lens of automation within HubSpot, so the data that you have underneath our roof already, and then connect that together with automation from outside of HubSpot. So bringing data in and then doing actions within our system. And then when it comes to reporting, A lot of different things that you can do on this front. I wanted to break it down through the lens of, first of all, making reporting easier, both for yourselves and for your teammates and other teams within your organization, and make it smarter as well. So beyond just the properties and the objects that you have within HubSpot, you can really take your reporting to a whole nother level and make it a lot more, I guess, business intelligence. You make it more intelligent. So those are the buckets that I broke things down on. Also, I'm more than happy to share this deck with you folks afterwards if you do want to like really roll up your sleeves and get into everything. Yvonne, I'm excited you're excited. And that is definitely going to be a cool section for sure. So I'll start things out with data quality. And for any partners that we have in the session here today, this is really that first thing that folks will generally look to OpsHub to adopt. Of course, we can solve a lot of different problems, but when it comes to like, what's the easiest way to get my foot in the Operations Hub door? Generally, the answer is going to be data quality, because as I'm sure you all know, and as I've already discussed with you folks, data quality is an issue that the vast majority of companies are running into. Here's a graphic that I like leaning into around, like if you have a glass of water, for example, that was 97% contaminated, would you take a big gulp of it? Probably not. We really do want to allow for you all to have as clean of a HubSpot instance as possible. And there are a number of different ways that you can think about this and position this here, folks. I'll touch on just a couple of them. But again, there are indeed more things that you can lean into from a data quality perspective. And of course, this year, we're going to be releasing more and more stuff within our data quality command center so that you can wrap your arms around every single piece of data within HubSpot. I want to just quickly call out some of the different pains that individual teams are feeling. And I have been on a lot of these teams myself within HubSpot, and I can speak with firsthand experience that this is indeed something that a lot of teams deal with. When it comes to sales, don't know which leads are worth their time. Time is money, of course, and you need to have as much of it as possible in order to hit your quota. Who also likes an awkward conversation? I certainly don't. I've been a part of too many of them, and the awkward sales conversations are definitely something that I think the vast majority of people want to avoid. When it goes to marketing, no one likes sending that email and getting a response saying, "Are you sure you meant to send this to me?" So marketing teams are certainly feeling this. When it comes to customer support, we want to make our customers as happy as possible. They need the information in front of them in order to do so, and to do things like ensure that folks aren't repeating themselves time after time. When it comes to operations, this is, of course, Operations Hub. So I do think that this team feels this in a really big way, spending way too much time cleaning up information, cleaning up data, wading through spreadsheets. We want to avoid all of that. And then finally, when it comes to leadership, there's just general skepticism around some of the reports put in front of leadership. We'd love to make that skepticism go away entirely so that leadership has a lot more trust in their data as a whole. So getting into some of the specific data quality features that I'd encourage you all to check out if you haven't already and play around with, because they are super user-friendly. I want to just start off by chatting about the data model overview tool that we have. This allows for you to see which of those objects are connected, what those associations are. You can also drill into things like the properties within those and things like that. And of course, see these different examples too. So this data model overview, if you all are like empathizing to a degree here and saying, you know what, we probably have room to improve our data model and our data structure, this is a great place to start to really zoom out and understand what is in front of you that could potentially need fixing and how everything does tie together. So if you are in that circumstance where you want to go through and clean your data up a little bit, this is likely where I would recommend starting. The Data Quality Command Center. This is something, folks, that we're going to continue to invest in. So you can expect to see more and more features, more and more information flowing into here in the near future. This is also a relatively unique product within the marketplace as well. This is an AI-powered, native-built data quality command center that powers the entire CRM. A lot of our other competitors, folks, are bolting things on or integrating, not using artificial intelligence to the degree that we are. And so this is something that is pretty special, frankly, and is a really great front door for Operations Hub as a whole. Now, once you do dive into it, if you just go to your contact screen, you'll see data quality in the upper right-hand corner. I think it will indeed speak for itself, but we'll break things down through properties, records, data sync health, and things like that. And you'll see, we'll show you exactly what the formatting issues are, exactly what the duplicates are, what's empty, what's not being used, what's the fill rate on certain properties. And so once you understand your data model, jump into the data quality command center and just get a sense as to what it actually looks like and what you can access and what you should probably fix, which leads me to my next use case around data quality, which is data quality recommendations. You're able to click in here, folks, and see in a very HubSpot-y and what I like to think is a very easy to consume interface here, or we'll do things like this is containing an unexpected number as an example, missing or unexpected capitalization. First name and last name should probably be switched and things like that. And so you can go through, you can accept all of these individually. What you're also able to do with our duplicate manager with Operations Hub Professional is bulk merge those contacts. So folks, if you do jump into that duplicate manager and you see thousands and thousands of potential duplicate contacts, you do not need to go through each of those and approve them. You can indeed do so in bulk. Love to hear that, Yvonne, that you're doing that already. And I'll tell you all, we want to raise the ceiling as much as possible on that so that, again, you can avoid duplicate data as much as possible because who likes duplicate data? I certainly don't. Now, folks, it isn't just being able to zoom out, understand what's going on, and then be able to fix it individually or even merge things in bulk. You're also able to create some, what I've always kind of branded, data guardrails to prevent any of those issues moving forward. And that's using things like the ability to keep your data clean with our formatting automation functionality. Now, this is something that you can do within that duplicate manager and within the data quality command center. And folks, you do not need to be able to write any code at all to do this. You simply need to be able to check a couple of boxes and then click on save. And so no code at all. So this could not be more simple, folks. Check this out. And again, if you are empathizing with, you know what, maybe I don't have the degree of confidence that I'd like to have within our data, check out that data model to understand things at a higher level. Jump into the data quality command center to kind of drill down a little bit more into that second layer. Go into that third layer to really clean things up regarding duplicates or any formatting suggestions. And then finally, you can prevent yourself from having to do that consistently by just using some of this formatting automation, this data quality automation. So that's kind of how we think about data quality at a high level. And again, folks, you will indeed be seeing more information flowing into that as we continue to invest firstly in artificial intelligence, which is a huge thing that we're talking a lot about nowadays, but also investing in helping you and your customers have as clean of a database as possible. So folks, if you all have any thoughts, questions on data quality, definitely send them my way now or later. And again, this really is the easiest way to get someone in the door with Operations Hub, because I think we all recognize data in the CRM could indeed be cleaner. Now, folks, I'm going to jump into some automation concepts with you all next. I didn't include this as a use case, but just to round off data quality as a whole, we do indeed have the ability to format data within workflow actions as well. So Yvonne, like +1 to the woohoo no code. I am not personally a developer. However, if you all did want to have a little bit more jurisdiction or get a little fancier with this, you can indeed do this with the workflow action. So keep that in mind as well. If you see that list of data quality automation features and you're like, we need to take it to a different and more advanced level, you can indeed do so by using that format data workflow action. Cool. So folks, I want to chat with you all about automation first within HubSpot. So using all of the data underneath our system, what can you actually do with it? You'll see that I call out this programmable automation use case library a few times throughout this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and just open this up so that you all can see this though, because if you haven't checked it out yet, I would highly recommend doing so. I'll also just drop this in the chat for, I guess, ease of access for you folks. Now, regarding what Yvonne mentioned, Yvonne, I may pick on that comment a couple of times. Apologies in advance if I call you out too much here. But when it comes to custom coded workflow actions specifically, folks, you indeed will need to have a degree of developer experience in order to write these. Now, this is going to be within the Python and the JavaScript language. Again, I'm not a developer. I don't want to pose as one, but this is really like the English or the Spanish of developer languages as a whole. So if you all hear this and you're like, I don't know if we have a developer on staff who could do this. I don't know how giant of an ask this is. They're already super busy, so I can't ask them for any help. We are really not asking for a giant technical lift here, folks. It is something that the vast majority of developers can do pretty easily. Also, we give you a head start. Check out this programmable automation use case library, which has, as I'm sure you can imagine, plenty of different use cases. You can click in to discover an individual use case. We'll give you a bit of a rundown as to exactly what it is. And then we can literally just give you the code. Now, of course, you'll make some changes to this. I'm not a developer, as I've mentioned a few times. I can come in and copy and paste this into a workflow action, make a few changes, and wrap my arms around it to a certain degree pretty quickly. So folks, as you are thinking about just automation and custom coded workflow actions specifically, this is really not like the most technical and the most complex thing at all. So I just wanted to call that out. And if we do have anyone in this session who writes custom coded workflow actions, if you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. If you agree, would love a +1 here, because I'm always curious to hear what other people think. But I just wanted to call that out before getting into the specifics with you folks. And again, that programmable automation use case library is absolutely fantastic. So one of the biggest things that folks are using custom coded workflow actions for are for things like creating and associating objects and labels as well. We've had custom objects for quite some time now. And of course, if you do have that custom object centric CRM database, you're probably going to want to have some associations and labels within those. And so this is a huge, huge use case. If you're ever thinking about like, well, HubSpot can't just do this out of the box, I'm very confident that custom coded workflow actions will be able to untie your hands so that you can label and create any association with any objects that you would need to. A few other things I want to call out. Rotation and assignment is also a huge use case. I'm not sure about you all, but I've definitely seen many, many, many workflows that hit the different branch limit because folks are just branching out. If this, then this, and this, then assign it to this person. Not only are those unfun to create, those are difficult to maintain as well. People move roles, things change. It's easy to forget about that 79th branch within a workflow that you created a year before. And so being able to really use custom coded workflow actions to assign things however you'd like is an incredibly powerful functionality. I'll also tie back to some other HubSpot experience that I had pre-Operations Hub, and I really wish we had Operations Hub for. I was a member of our onboarding team, and I helped stand up how we assign onboarding records. That, of course, has a lot of, totally, Dustin, that, of course, has a lot of nuances to it. So let's say a given onboarding specialist is on vacation. Let's say they already have a lot of records assigned to them. Let's say they have this specific expertise. There are a lot of things that went into that. And so we built some very complex logic in order to account for that. Whereas we couldn't just use a custom coded workflow action in order to speak to another system with those inputs and then route out and assign appropriately to kick off that relationship. So folks, I'm not sure if you all are empathizing with something like that, but this is one of those things where if you're having a ton of different branches within your workflows, I bet you could simplify them a little bit with custom coded workflow actions. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about rotations and assignments for sure. Also, when it comes to things like CRM hygiene. So if you wanted a deal created automatically when a given deal closes to then populate with all of that correct information in order to manage that renewal, you can absolutely do that as well. This is something that we see quite a bit for our SaaS companies or for more of our like B2B pro services companies too. And folks, again, this is a very specific thing within our programmable automation use case library. I also didn't hyperlink like just the general one. Like if this is something you do want to lean into, I have hyperlinked the actual use cases that you can leverage. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't open this door to everyone here as well. If you all are using a custom coded workflow action that's being very helpful for your business, go ahead and share it with us if you'd be willing. We'd love to have as much up here as possible to help folks like you and all of our other customers. So this is another way that folks are often using custom coded workflow actions. And again, this is all leveraging data that's already underneath the HubSpot roof. I want to chat about what you can do though when it comes to data outside of HubSpot. The amount of customers who are using HubSpot as their automation engine by just after bringing data into our system is incredible. I've heard so many stories as well about people using things like our platform. So first P with integrations to bring data from a ton of other systems and then have our system clean up that data to then push it into those other systems as well. So this is something that a lot of folks are using HubSpot and custom coded workflow actions specifically for. This is everything from custom integrations, data enrichment, and connecting with your other systems. So I'll touch on this first one, which is email validation. I'm sure all of you all have heard about tools like Kickbox to validate emails. I'm sure we also have all had an email or two bounce back that we've sent before. No one likes to go through the whole deliverability conversation in order to get unlocked. That's obviously a whole different session where we could indeed chat about that, but you can use custom coded workflow actions to prevent that from ever happening at all. So this one uses Kickbox specifically. Of course, we can link up with any of these email validation services though, that also have an open door. This could be as simple as using a trigger of email address is known, for example. So it doesn't have to be incredibly complicated. It can solve for a lot of different use cases though. You can not only use it to validate information, you can also use it to enrich your CRM as well. A lot of folks are leaning into the Zoom infos, for example, of the world. I believe this one uses Clearbit. You can absolutely take all of that information from other systems, bring it into HubSpot, populate, for example, those company properties, and then use that information however you see fit. Of course, there are a lot of different options on that front. So I just wanted to call out the fact that a lot of folks are indeed using custom coded workflow actions to bring in and really enrich the CRM further outside of what you can just generate within the native HubSpot system. You can also do things like speak to a custom database. We, of course, have a lot of SaaS customers within our install base. I'm not sure if anyone in this session here today falls into that bucket, but here's an example where you can do things like if a contact just fills out a form and they're not a user on your platform already, first of all, check if they're a user, and if not, then create a free trial for them as an example. That's absolutely something that you can indeed do. That's more for that SaaS use case. But folks, if you have another custom system that has an open door to speak to us, you can indeed push data into it. You can pull data from it into HubSpot and use that data with the power of our system, which is, I'm sure a good portion of you all know, is indeed quite powerful. So this is being able to also connect to those other systems. And folks, if there's ever that disconnect and you want to bring things together, I'd encourage you all to think about Operations Hub. Another one that I don't have here, but I just want to kind of voice it over because it is in line with connecting to other systems. Webhooks are extremely powerful as well. So if you're ever hitting API call limits or things like that, consider webhooks. They can indeed make your tech stack more efficient and streamline things. So I didn't add that in because it's one of those, I think, more commonly known functionalities, and I'm open to being wrong about that. But folks, do not sleep on webhooks. They are very, very popular. And Yvonne, yep, check this specific one out again. Like this is the raw code that you can leverage this. So check this specific one out. Just because you mentioned that, I'll go ahead and drop it into the chat right here so that it's easy for you to find. But yes, anyone with an external database, if you want to leverage the power of HubSpot with it, then consider using custom coded workflow actions to do so. Cool. So folks, that's all I had on the automation side of things. And again, there's a lot more that you can do with this. These are just some of the most common ways that people are using our automation functionalities within Operations Hub. I want to do a little bit of a pivot and chat with you all about reporting within HubSpot. It's really that third P of perspective. I know I get the sense, and I do recognize some names here where folks are comfortable with our tools and have seen the evolution of HubSpot over the years. We've made a phenomenal amount of progress on the reporting side of things over the past few years, in my opinion. So definitely a shout out to our whole reporting team because we really are starting to push into that business intelligence space. And it's been great to see. Though I'm the first to admit, for the average HubSpot user who isn't in the report builder all day, every day, if they wanted to just jump right in and create a very quick and easy report for their team, it takes more than a couple of minutes for a lot of users to do that. And so I want to just kick things off from a reporting perspective and chat with you all about how we can make that easier and who we're really solving for on this front. So folks, when it comes to operations teams in general, and again, I'm curious if any of you all can really empathize with this, and I'll just speak for like HubSpot and how our businesses worked and how our teams work together. There's so many teams that are always asking our analysts, what about this? What about this? What about this? Do we have an angle here? Our analyst team is busy with all of those requests through and through. And so using a functionality like data sets could help our operations team enable our customer facing teams, for example, a lot quicker and answer the questions that they need to answer without having to rely on other teams to do so. Now, folks, I'll speak from my own experience again here. I've been using Looker for quite a bit of time. One of the functionalities that I see that is similar to Looker that Datasets has, you can think about a given datasets as a Looker Explorer. So you have all of this data within HubSpot. Not every single data point is going to be used in every single report. So when it comes to making reporting easier, you can absolutely create a data set to simply pull in the fields and the objects that are most commonly used, and then hand that to your marketing leader, your sales leader, your customer success leader, whoever that may be, so that instead of handing them this giant blank canvas with a ton of different paint colors, you can hand them a canvas that is like halfway painted, let's say, with the bases and just a couple of colors to build on top of that. Maybe I'm leaning into that metaphor a little bit too aggressively, but I hope you all can at least just see with this screenshot that you can really cut down on things so that your teams aren't constantly tapping on your shoulders to build them those reports. So Yvonne, definitely scary. Like, I'm the first one to admit that it can indeed be scary. Data sets can make it less scary though, because you sift through a couple of fields and objects as opposed to a couple hundred. So don't overlook this just simple but very powerful functionality within data sets that, again, will hopefully enable your teams to be a little bit more independent and create reports and answer their questions easier. Another feature for Operations Hub Enterprise is our Snowflake data share. Now, folks, Snowflake is a big data warehouse that can, of course, hold pretty much any data point that your business has. We do indeed recognize that a lot of folks are already doing a lot of their reporting and data analysis within Snowflake. Our data share makes this very simple to do, where you can bring all the data from HubSpot into Snowflake in a cleanly formatted way. So if you or your teams are already living within Snowflake and reporting there, we will not be asking you to essentially have two separate reporting ecosystems. We want to enable you to work where you're already working and be as efficient as possible. And so our Snowflake data share will indeed allow for some of our customers to do that. So folks, this is often overlooked in full transparency. It is definitely very powerful though. And if you're working with anyone, or if you yourself is using Snowflake for a lot of different reasons, consider this Snowflake data share, because it does make Snowflake more powerful when it has all of that data within HubSpot. So that's really on the making reporting easier side of things. I also want to shine a spotlight as to how we can make reporting even smarter. So folks, as I'm sure a lot of you all know, we do indeed have calculation properties. That is a property type. You hit a wall pretty quickly with that, though. If, for example, you need to calculate from cross object calculations, so between a company and a deal, for example, complex formulas, that is not really doable within calculated properties. And also, folks, you can and we'll be able to in the very near future write this data to properties so that you can not only view this information, but then actually automate actions around it, for example. So what are some of the things that folks are using this for? Here's a pretty simple and straightforward formula that we're showing around which products are the most profitable. This is something, folks, that I imagine the vast majority of businesses would want to view, and you're able to view this in that custom report builder that, again, has made some major strides forward over the past few years. And is very easy to digest and pull those reports onto a dashboard. So this is one that I imagine most businesses would want to be leveraging to simply understand which products of theirs are most profitable. So this is one way that a lot of folks are using formulas within data sets. This one is a little bit more complex. I think a lot of folks hear e-commerce, for example, and think, HubSpot doesn't really do e-commerce. I would respectfully push back on that. We don't have a fulfillment functionality underneath our roof. However, we have Operations Hub that can speak to those other systems and pull that information in. I'll let this slide speak for itself, but this will really allow for you to understand, for example, shipping data. So duration to complete the checkout per product, and then duration to complete shipping. And then again, one of the features that we are working on is the ability to do things like if it's super late, let's say maybe, 20 days, then notify XYZ person in order to touch base with the fulfillment folks to make sure that that gets shipped appropriately. So number of different formulas flowing into this. You'll see that you can take all of these formulas and then put them into a very easy to understand report that you can view right here. And again, action as well, not just view it. So this is on that shipping, more e-commerce fulfillment side of things. Here's another dashboard I wanted to show you all that's built out. And I'm happy to share more details on this if you all would like. That really allows for you to understand your sales process. So if this is a little bit more B2C, we can call this a little bit more of a B2B dashboard built from data sets. This will do things like deal velocity, as an example. This is broken down by industry. Tying back to my comment around the cross-object calculations, this will do things like pull in the date difference between the create date of the company and the close date of the deal associated with that company. You can then average it out, break it down by industry. You can, of course, sort these columns. You can, of course, remove industries as well. But this is using that date diff functionality. And again, folks, I don't write SQL. However, I can create these formulas with just a little bit of effort. The folks who actually are writing SQL on the day-to-day can do this in a matter of minutes. So I know it can be scary and intimidating, but this is pretty darn easy in full transparency. Other things like deal risk score. Of course, who doesn't want to know their conversion rates between their pipeline stages? This is a default report. You can indeed take it to another level with Operations Hub as well. And then ARR churn impact right here too. And Karen, yes, these are indeed built via data sets. Happy to share more specifics if you all see one and you're like, ooh, really want to hear more about that. Send me an email and I'd love to go back and forth. But I did just want to show you all a bit more of a B2B use case that folks are indeed using. And again, each individual data set will indeed fill reports. You're also really able to zoom out in a big way on your business, though, and view all of this information together. So don't overlook data sets. This is one of the major value propositions of Operations Hub Enterprise. And again, it's a lot more than being able to simply prep data to allow for your team to jump in and create reports easily. You're really able to report on just about anything and run these complex calculations and these complex formulas as well. So if you're ever wondering, how do I build this? I'm not seeing the ability to do so within the UI itself. confident in saying data sets will be able to get you over that hump. And again, this is data within HubSpot and from data that is not within HubSpot and that you're bringing into our system, which of course Operations Hub can also accommodate. So folks, I wanted to touch on those use cases. I wanted to break things down in that bucket, in those different 5 buckets. That is all I had for you all today from like a core presentation perspective. I do want to make sure though that we open the door to questions or any just broader discussion and anything really else on your minds here, folks. So if anyone does have any questions, send them my way. I actually see, nope, it looks like Q&A was read there, but no actual questions. I guess I'll ask you all a question if you don't mind. Was this helpful? And what else would be helpful for you all to learn more about Operations Hub? I know that's a very open-ended question, but purposefully open-ended, I'd say. So what other questions do you all have about Operations Hub? How else would you want to learn about it? And Dustin, not to call you out, but maybe I can call you out on that. Does this resonate with you? Are these use cases that you and HIVE have seen? What's your take on everything?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of these for clients. I think for us, just one of the things that I think could take Operations Hub to that next level is just continuing to expand that programmable automation use cases. And I think that that's on us as agencies to own a little bit more and to continue to submit those things. I know that we have several kind of complex ones that we're working on right now, and I think we just have to take the initiative to get those in there. But I also put that out to kind of everyone here, all the agencies around the world. Like when you're creating cool stuff, specifically using those programmable automation and custom coded workflows and things like that, like we need to be sharing those because Operations Hub is such a like broad canvas, right? Like we can do so many things with it that it almost becomes kind of a so broad. It's so broad that we get like stuck, right? Like we don't know what do we do next because we're not confined to this box. And so I think the more we can do there, the better.
I couldn't agree more. There's so much that it can do. And frankly, that's the purpose of it. Like we are building these tools to be extremely flexible and to meet as many use cases as possible. But I think with that, it is indeed, Yvonne, you actually just used the word that I was about to use. Like it can paralyze you to a degree around like, I don't know, like, should I be using it for this? Could I be using it for this? And I think generally the thing that breaks the paralysis is, well, how are other people using this? What are some of those top use cases? And so I've tried to lean into that today. I think that, further building out the library, I can tell you all, this is one of our priorities this year is to continue to build this out. We have one for data sets as well. As you'll see, this is a little bit less robust, so we'd welcome any and all submissions on this front here as well. But I do think that folks want a little bit of inspiration in order to really understand the possible, and then they can really jump into the possible. So folks, I do indeed hope that you feel like you've gotten some inspiration here today and gotten some of those ideas flowing within your head as to how you can use it both for your own business and for your clients. So I hear that, and we're going to continue pushing in that educational direction and like inspirational direction as well.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely one of those tools that like when you get stuck with, oh, we're trying to do this in HubSpot, and there's not a like straightforward way to do it, Operations Hub is typically the answer because there is a way to do it that direction. It's just a matter of kind of figuring it out. Yes, I'm going to go with Karen. We will be sharing the presentation after we're done here. Once everything finishes processing, you'll get an email. It'll also be available on the Boulder Hug event page. Jack, if you wouldn't mind sharing your email address one more time in the chat. If you do have questions or any ideas or run into any roadblocks, feel free to reach out to me. I'll throw my email in there as well, or Jack. Jack is, like he mentioned earlier, is like HubSpot guru in all hubs. So, but specifically in the Ops Hub and commerce space, like if you do run into something, Jack has been super responsive and helpful kind of with any of our questions that have come up. Yeah, but thanks everyone for joining today. Jack, really appreciate the time today and the way more than 5 use cases. I think that was great. I think it is one of those things that if we can start to see more examples and see more like ways that this can be used, I think then it becomes less abstract.
Definitely. Thanks for your time today. Everybody, Dustin, thank you so much for giving me this microphone, but also thanks for just being an awesome partner and awesome ally of ours. Hive is killer. And we need a lot more hives out there. So thanks for being an awesome partner. Thanks everyone for your time here today. And I'd love to hear from you folks. If I can ever help with anything, don't hesitate to reach out directly.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jack. Thanks everyone for attending. Look out for the recording. It should be coming later today. And we'll see you at our next hug in Q3.